Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sunday Morning Quarterback. Today, we are four pastors who love ministry, leadership, and sports. And fella, the man, the myth, and the legend is back, Dr. Adam Denny. Adam, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. You know, here's what I did. Because August is National Cowboy Delusion Month, I just said, I'm not even going on the podcast. I just don't want to deal with the nonsense. But glad to be back. Football season is upon us, so we're here. Let's do it.
Nice. John coming in from Virginia. How's it going down there?
It's great. It's good to be back. It's a little rain outside, but I'm excited to be here with fellow UNC fans back in here having to fight the Cowboy drama together.
Mm-hmm. Like-mindedness, and Paul coming in his new sweet office with the board. I can't wait to see the messages that come from the board.
All season long. And like Adam, there's a lot of delusion going on right now. It's just called Tennessee football, but that's all right.
Adam, Paul's going to watch more football this year than he ever has in a life. Kay's going to be like, you need to stop going on with them because he's just going to be watching football all day, and I love it.
She's encouraging it, though, so it's fine. It's fine. I wore my Miami gear the other day, and she said, yuck. So it's football season. It's football season.
Adam, you've been like Skip. You've been on a little hiatus, I'm sure, with a lot to say. So let's start off with NFL kickoff. We'll do some predictions, and then at the end, we'll talk about opening college football weekend. So let's do this, guys. Let's just kind of go around the horn. We're going to do NFL predictions. Let's start off with division winners and wild card teams. Adam, why don't we go AFC first? Who you got?
All right, in the AFC, I've got Cincinnati coming out of the North. Obviously, once again, that's a really tough division, and I would say it's a toss-up, but I'm going to just roll with the best quarterback, go Cincy. Same thing with Kansas City. This is the Mahomes era, and so I'm going to put them in the 2 slot. And then we've seen the rise of Trevor Lawrence to prominence, and I think we're going to see his best season and probably the best season in Jacksonville recent memory this year. And then I've got Buffalo coming in at the 4 spot, and, you know, those could easily be switched in a variety of ways, but I think those are bar none the 4 best teams in the AFC. For the wild card, I've got Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
Whoa!
And I think that'll just be fun to watch. I think there's a part of NFL community that just wants to see a team that's been bad for like 30 years be good for once. I'm going to throw Baltimore in there because in that division they're in, as I said, it's tough. But you know, Harbaugh knows how to coach. I mean, even years where they have a down year, they're still in the mix at the end of the year. So Lamar got his money. So I want to see what they can do. And then, you know, I really struggled with this because of my picks last year, but I'm going to go with Denver in that last wild card spot. I think Sean Payton is a proven coach, and whatever was going on last year, hopefully he can get that in order.
Adam had to get that out of his system because last year Denver was his breakout team of the year. He had to go to the Super Bowl, baby. Oh, gotta love the tape. All right, John, what'd you think of that list? What's yours look like?
I'm not going to rehash a lot of that. I had the top 4 pretty much set. I mean, and why wouldn't we have it?
Yep.
I think within that, I'm just going to make 2 mentions and not go through every wild card. I think the breakout season here, I think the Seahawks are going to rebound in a major way. I think they're going to make a great run. And I would agree with Adam. I think Jacksonville is on the rise. You're going to see a leap in epic proportion. And you're going to see a lot of good football come out. Probably the best football we've seen in a very, very long time. So I am on that bandwagon. I would also kick in, just as a side note, 49ers are also on the rise. I am excited to see how Purdy plays and to see how that pans out for him.
Hey, Paul, I'll pass it to you in a second. Adam, I had Chiefs, Jacksonville, Cincy, Bills like you did. My wild card teams, Ravens, one that I'm curious to watch, the Chargers. I'm sticking in the AFC here, Ravens, Chargers, and I didn't know between the Titans and Pittsburgh. That's going to be interesting. Kenny Pickett really showed some promise. Are the Titans going to regress? They've lost a little bit up front. Will this be the year that Tannehill kind of can do something, or are they going to cut bait and move on from him? But noticed that we all left out Miami, Paul. Everybody left out your team. Do you have them making it to the playoffs? What do you see? What you got?
I mean, I already have it up there that I got them running the East, which
okay.
hopefully, but we'll see. I don't know. The Bills are tough, man. It's going to be hard to say the least. Miami's got a tough division that they play in already as it is. So, I mean, either way, I've got like these guys, Bills, Bengals, Jags, and the Chiefs. I mean, those guys are, I mean, you've seen already what they can bring to the table, especially the Chiefs. I mean, you can't argue with that.
Yep.
So that's AFC. I don't know if you guys are wanting to get into the NFC, but
you go first. Go NFC. Who's your division winners?
Well, I know I'm not delusional about the NFC East with the Cowboys, so it's definitely going to be the Eagles on that side of the train. That's for sure.
You better hope so.
And then I've got Falcons, 49ers as you start going down the list. Maybe Lions out of the North. We'll see. I don't know, but that's just my stab at it.
Oh, he said the Falcons. Adam, what you think about that?
Yeah, we need to start drug testing guests for this show.
Go ahead, Adam. Tell us your NFC division winners.
All right, NFC divisional winners. Here's what I think is going to happen. I'd be surprised if Sam Darnold, there with Kyle Shanahan, really just kind of shocks the world. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. But I've got them as the number 1 seed. I've got Philly at the number 2. I'm seeing things about Jordan Love. He's impressing people in the preseason, but time will tell with that. I think most people don't want to see that because they've had a franchise quarterback for the last 30 years. No one wants to see them get another stud of a quarterback. And then I've got the New Orleans Saints winning the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers taking the first wild card seed. Ooh, and here is my shock. I have the DMV's own Washington Commanders, led by Sam Howell, in the wild card this year with 10 wins this year.
Wow.
Book it. The Commanders will win 10 games this year. And then my final one, I've got Green Bay slipping in there for that last wild card spot.
Did you forget anybody, Adam?
No, I didn't. No, I really thought through this.
I hope you thought through it as good as last year when you predicted Dallas was going to go 8-8. But it's fine. John, go ahead. We'll continue the slander. Anything different, John?
I have a little bit there. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's going to be a tight race between the Saints and the Panthers. And that's just because I'm not sure that Carr is the guy that's going to get them over the hump. I don't think it's that big of an improvement. I could see it going either way, and I'm leaning towards the Panthers, not as a homer, but the last 3 out of 4 games are going to be at home. I think they're going to finish out very strong in the division. I think the defense will finally really begin to carry some of the weight. Young's going to get some good reps, and I think it's going to work out very well. I do have the Cowboys coming in that wild card spot, that second spot. So let's just be honest. That's because a lot of the conference in general is just trash. And it's not going to be hard to rise up to the top of that. I think the Lions are going to creep in. I think this is a good year for them to bounce back. You're going to see a lot of good movement there, but Atlanta is even sniffing. I don't even understand the reality of that stuff. It has to be because Paul is just close to Georgia and he's trying not to get his church blown up.
Yeah.
There's a few fans here or there, but otherwise
just a few. There's more Titans fans here in Georgia than there is than there is Falcons. But okay, hey, I'll show my unbiased. I have the Eagles winning the division, but let me tell you, the NFC East is probably one of the best pound for pound divisions in football, and so I think it'll come down between us and the Eagles down to the final week. But we'll give them that. Detroit agreed there. I got the Saints. I don't totally trust Derek Carr, but we'll see. San Francisco got them winning. My wild card teams were Seattle, Minnesota. A lot of people writing them off for good. And then I got the Giants slipping in. Man, Giants roster is stacked. And so I don't think it's going to be a clean sweep for the Eagles in the division or Dallas or, like you're saying, Adam, with the Commanders. But if you look at Dallas' schedule, it's pretty favorable. And even if our delusion slants one way, you guys' delusion can't slant the other way because our defensive front is sick. Okay, Micah Parsons, he's a dog. So I got us slipping in at wild card. And so that's my NFC. Let's go, Adam. What's your conference winner and your Super Bowl prediction?
For the Super Bowl, I've got Cincinnati.
Ooh.
I think it is the Mahomes era, but this will probably be broken up every other year. And so I've got Burrow leading Cincinnati to the Super Bowl. And as I mentioned, I've got San Francisco in the Super Bowl this year. And it well may be Sam Darnold leading that team.
Wow.
And I have got Cincinnati Bengals hoisting the trophy at the end of the year.
Wow. Sam Darnold.
I would concur those picks. If you were looking at my sheet, then it would just be evident. If Burrow stays healthy, he is for sure a lot this year to be the Super Bowl champion. So I'm going to put that on paper as well.
Paul, what's your Super Bowl prediction?
Honestly, and I've got it right here, so I'm not trying to lie on this, but I've got either Cincy or Chiefs going to the Super Bowl and then the 49ers on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Good news is Joseph is going to kick in the Cowboys, and so we don't have to worry about that at all. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. I think we're in the Mahomes era, like Adam said. I'm going to go Chiefs. Man, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a repeat of Chiefs-Eagles, but I'll go Chiefs-Niners this year. And I think Mahomes and I think the Chiefs, they're rolling, man. They're gonna keep it going. We will keep this tape mid-season and come back and take a look at it. But let's shift to college. Got a big college weekend. Adam, what games, what predictions are you looking at? Then we'll pass it on to John.
Well, there's not a lot of big games per se in opening week, but there's one that I feel like most people are going to be paying attention to. And that is Dion prime time. And then my UNC Tar Heels have a very tough matchup right there on the border of NC-SC against the Gamecocks. And South Carolina, they started to put together a pretty good year last year. They are in a Beamer Junior era. And, their quarterback, he's pretty good. So I'm a little nervous about this one. I'm going to go be a homer, a 3-point Tar Heel win. But that's what I'm focusing on this weekend.
That's good prediction. John, what says you?
We'll jump in there on the UNC South Carolina game because it's not very often we get close to hosting college game day. So being the fact that it's in Charlotte, I'm going to go ahead and claim it for the UNC. It's been since 2010 since we've had the chance to have them. You know why? Because game day is always where Ohio State is, and what a waste of energy to go out there time and time again. But I think we're going to pull it off. I think it's going to be a solid 38-31 UNC win, but it's going to come in the last seconds. It's not going to be a blowout game for sure. And that is really just because I'm really concerned about the defense. We haven't really seen it. New coordinator, new scheme, new plans. I'm sure the offense is going to be clicking. Things are going to go well. Also going to be watching Michigan. We're all wondering who's going to be there, who's going to fill the role. How's that going to – do I think that East Carolina is going to drop the bomb on them? I do not. But in the subsequent weeks, I think it's going to get very interesting very quickly. So those are the two games I'm really looking at. Here locally, it's Virginia and Tennessee with the Cavaliers on Sunday as we cheer on the fact that the Volunteers took an L. So that's what I'm leaning towards.
That's funny. Paul's Miami winning opening weekend.
I hope to God so. I mean, they're playing in Miami against Miami, another Miami, right? Hopefully that'll be the case. I mean, we'll see. I don't know, man. Miami, they started off well last year. It's just one of those things where it's always up in the air. I get nervous every time the season starts with them. We'll see. Like I said last time I was on here, I'm hopeful for TBD. I want to see him play. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. He's going to do well. So we'll see, man. I don't know. I've got him winning by 35. Maybe that's more of a pipe dream for me, but I think they'll do well. I'm with these guys. I'm looking forward to seeing that UNC-NC game. I think that's going to be good. Otherwise, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of it's the beginning. It's week one, man. Yep. I mean, it's going to be like week 0. So.
For all you Georgia fans out there, we would talk about you, but you have a cupcake schedule like the most I've ever seen. You play Austin Peay and all these teams I've never even heard of. They don't even play they play 1 or 2 ranked teams all season. So I don't want to hear anything about Georgia until
far be it from me to defend the Georgia Bulldogs, but I was reminded of something the other day. The only reason they have the schedule is because when Oklahoma and Texas went into the SEC, they were not allowed to play. They were supposed to play in the opening week, I think, Oklahoma. So they'll get a pass in that way. But it's going to be an interesting year for the SEC for sure.
Oh, it will. But man, I can't wait till that division spreads out and we get these new teams in. Then we're gonna have more good games. I think that's the thing about the NFL is the parity is just there for it. But so anyway, as football starts, we are going to keep the tape because our predictions will hold ourselves accountable. And we'll see how we're looking. And once football NFL gets rolling, we're gonna be coming weekly. So let's shift gears, fellas, to ministry and leadership. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about the life cycles of a church. And guys, I'm going to put this graphic on the screen that we're kind of talking through. And I had come across this in a book that I read called The Unstuck Church, and it always stuck with me. In the business world, they talk about the S curve and the different stages of growth, whether for a business or different things like that. But in the book, he kind of talks about the S curve in terms of the cycles of a church. And so the cool thing is with a panel like this, we have each been at different churches in different stages. And one of the things he talks about in the book is every stage has different challenges and different seasons of ministry, whether how you preach or how you lead or how you disciple. And so I wanted to just have a little bit of talk of what are some of the challenges that we face in the different stages. So the first stage is the launch stage. This is, your church plants. Then the stage after that is momentum growth. And then after some time sets in, you go into strategic growth. And then the stage which we all aspire to get to which is sustained health, when you're really able to put some quality substance together. And then on the backside of the S curve, you have maintenance, preservation, and then what we see some churches fall into in Tom Rainer's book of The Autopsy of a Dying Church, he calls life support. And so I wanted to kind of hear y'all's thoughts on what are some of the challenges and what are some of the fun parts of being in the different stages. Where's your church at? Where's your ministry at? And I just wanted to kind of hear y'all's thoughts on this. John, I'll start with you. What's the first thing that pops in your mind in regards to this conversation?
Yeah, I was looking at it, the bell curve, looking at the potential. I think life cycle is a little overreach. I don't think everybody has to go through all the phases to get back around, but I appreciate the understanding of it. And I'm new at our church. I've been here for 2 years, and so we're still trying to build and refine and clarify strategy. And so I really think at first there's a momentum growth, right? New person, new ideas, new thoughts, new family. You get a lot of younger families showing up and coming to check it out. We were in need of some of those younger families coming to be a part, and we're starting to see some of the fruitfulness of that. But then there's got to be a move where it's not just there's a buzz in the air and excitement, because you can't sustain those things. You got to begin to see a goal, a vision, a plan. And so last year, or actually coming into this year, we unfolded the vision strategy for the church, looking for the opportunity to say, who are we going to be? How are we going to become? What's God leading us to? And ultimately, health and maturity and sustained depth within the thing in the ministry. But I think for me, I think the difficulty lands on the pastor who is trying to live in a sphere that they're not yet a part of. And so they have these plans, a strategy in their head, and they're like, why doesn't everybody think like me? Why doesn't everybody see it like me? They want to see growth. Maybe they're not seeing people coming into their church for a variety of reasons, and they're thinking of sustained health in a bunch of different categories. And I just say, I think from having conversations with some of you guys here, which has been fruitful for my own life, but also my friend Dave Wiley out on the West Coast as he's launching a church in a very difficult context. I think the difficulty in all the stages, especially on the growth side, is contentment. And I think just being content, enjoying where the Lord has you, and seeing the difficulty in sustained health. The goal is always, how do I continue to elongate this ministry? How do I continue to breathe life into something that seems to be going well? And a lot of builders within the pastoral ministry actually bail out then, right? Like, I built it, I'm done. I want to look for something else that I can build. But really, we want to see more people come to the point where they get something to where it's healthy and it's active and it's growing. And now see God in his fruitfulness elongate that ministry out in such a way. But I think the difficulty, and honestly, all the categories, is the slight tenure. for pastors in that area, that they don't get to move through more than 1 or 2 cycles at most. And that's really difficult.
That's good. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, as I took a look at that, I would say, the curb right before the top and the curb right after the top are probably the most difficult, because what you're looking at there is growth that comes from strategy, and below that was the momentum. And I would just say this, that a lot of it depends on your context. Somewhat what John was saying, it depends on who that church is and where they are. Like when I looked at this, I thought about my time in rural Georgia, in a town with a population of 800 people. And it's like, well, what do you mean by momentum here? Because, I had to learn that the hard way. I was used to growing up in big cities, and, you could say things from the pulpit, like, if you meet a stranger, invite them to church or share the gospel. Well, in those contexts, that rarely ever happens. And so, what we mean by momentum or growth in some churches is a completely different thing in others. And so, kind of tapering expectations if you're in a rural setting. I remember when I was there, our church led our association of 42 churches and baptisms. That's a lot of churches, but guess how many people we had baptized? It's 8 people. And, so if you move that to a place like Ringgold or even Roanoke, and of course, a place like Richmond or Chattanooga, that's on the low end. And so a lot of that is just the pastor's perspective. How am I evaluating where we're going? And like John said, which was a great point, being content. Everything doesn't happen overnight. We want to play the long game here in ministry. And so learning to be wise and kind of walk through those different seasons can be a challenge, but if you can do it, it is a great benefit for the church and yourself.
One of the things too he talks about in the book is kind of like John, how you were saying, the goal is that you, as you're on the top of the sustained health, you start another S curve, whether that be, okay, a part of sustained health is building a new ministry or being more effective in your disciple making. And so that's the thought, is that it keeps trending upward. But I was listening to Eric Geiger. So anyway, Eric Geiger was using this analogy of the two extremes, how the launch or momentum growth, you're more hunting for food. And then more of the strategic growth or the sustained growth, you're more planting for food. You're planting in people. And how while they're different approaches in different sides of the spectrum, both of them are for food, for spiritual health, for etc. And so I thought it was interesting, John, what you said of how some leaders, their leadership style fits the different stages. And there might be some guys that are builders that don't do good in a sustained health model. And then there's some guys that are sustained health pastors that they don't know how to roll their sleeves up and get in the dirt and create. And so I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a self-awareness thing. And it can be a bad thing if you're not careful and you limit yourself. But that was where my mind took me. Paul, what about you at a church like Brainerd, who's established, and then a part of y'all's new S curve is starting a new campus in North Georgia, and then it has its own curve. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, pastoring at an established church is completely different than launching a new campus. I mean, totally different things. I mean, what you can borrow out of is the DNA, the connectivity of things that, you don't have to necessarily worry about if you're writing solo, right? There are things that you already have built in as systems that you don't have to worry about. I don't have to go, for example, looking for a church engineer when I know we have one already on staff that can help out and troubleshoot things that, normally you'd have to contract out, figure out how to do all that. And now, you're the campus pastor trying to figure out, plumbing, which if you've never dealt with plumbing before, you have no idea. It's there, no idea what I'm doing. But outside of those kinds of things, there are things that when you come in that honestly, I think Curtis would probably speak a lot better at. He's a great analyzer of things from an established church perspective. But from North Georgia's, like, I remember the day that we did have to launch, and I remember those moments where you had to think through this curve, and it actually makes a lot of sense. And I can kind of rattle off a few things here that make sense from year 1 all the way to year 5 where we're now, right? So right off the get-go, it's important as you launch, like, you need a core group of people that believe in wanting to do what you've casted vision for, to say, hey, this is what we're going to end up doing. in the midst of that is creating a realistic budget so that you can get to these other steps, right? And you're talking about a razor thin budget so that you can think through viability and sustainability, right? Not overshooting, not trying to somehow or another fail and crash in the first year, but like actually create a budget that makes sense and isn't, all the bells and whistles that you may want to have when it comes to, revitalizing a church or planting one. And then through that, I think creating meaningful community where you can actually establish great groups of people that are finding that kind of community where they're doing life together, life groups, and those have an assortment of different things that go into them is vital. Because from that, I think if you can begin to create great fellowship within the church and people that are joining together, and it's more than just the novelty of launching a church or novelty of a location or anything else, like it's deep, real, meaningful Christian community. And then from there, I think establishing membership that really does matter and has substance behind it is huge. So year 1, year 2, you're doing those things, looking for leaders, looking for deacons that begin to kind of give you that established leadership within the church. That'll be huge for you to be able to continue to move forward. And then once once, growth is happening, you have momentum, well, you got to look at those momentum areas, right? Like, is your kids ministry growing? Well, how's that being strategically planned out with leaders and volunteers? How are you helping them? How are you resourcing them? How are you resourcing the life groups as they're growing, as more people are joining them? Do the leaders have the necessary materials and training that they need in order to multiply, to sustain them, to keep them healthy? Like, there's a host of different things that you can do in order for you to plan for those kinds of strategic growths, because at some point it's going to happen. And if it does, then you got to be very careful to know, those pain points and how to shift. But if you're not doing it first and foremost with all the other things that I mentioned, you will get to a place where, you're kind of just flying by the seat of your pants and you're trying to get people connected, trying to get people to move in one direction, but there's systems there that are not working for what you're doing. And so to your point, like, you do have to kind of go hunting, you do have to pay attention, you do have to make sure that you're looking around for things that are happening so that you can move it to a place of sustainability just for that particular context. If you're not, then you really are going to feel it, where families are walking out the door because you're not pastoring well through those kinds of growths.
Mm-hmm. And I jump in and just say, I think part of the model or the narrative that I keep hearing that I push back on is this idea of a tipping point, right? People are like, oh, well, if we could just get to that tipping point, that 300, that 400, then we're just going downhill. And I don't see that to be true across scripture. I see the church multiplying, where people are walking in fear of the Lord and comfort by the Holy Spirit, as Acts 9 says. I see a lot of work that God's doing uniquely at certain places. But there's a lot of conversation about this tipping point. If I just get to this numerical value or this kind of experience within my service, then that'll finally push us over into some kind of other experience. But no one really has defined what that is. And they're building up to this mythological bridge that may not even be there. And what if the Lord wants to really work through your own heart to show things that you have going on? What if he's got some people that he's drawing in that's going to be a difficult season among your church? And those things you just can't know. And so I think part of that is to push away from this idea that I'm trying to achieve some kind of strata that will finally make things easier, and that we're like just trusting in the Lord day by day, taking his good graces, taking the difficulties and the burdens, we're distributing those out among the sheep and looking for sustained health in individual lives and not in a numerical number or an experience or a feeling or a buzz or an energy or whatever we try to define that as.
Yeah. Adam, do you have anything to follow that?
Yeah, I appreciate what John said. We've kind of all grown up in the numbers era, and I think people have gotten a little disillusioned from it because, as John said, there's nothing wrong with celebrating, tangible evidences of God moving. But at the same time, if you base numbers and how many butts are in seats as to whether or not you're successful or faithful, you're setting yourself up for all kinds of spiritual dangers and hazards. Here's the truth of the matter. Sometimes the Lord is far more pleased with a church that goes from 200 to 150 than he is with a church that goes from 200 to 400. So long as the ministry of the church is anchored in the Word of God and they are truly seeking God's heart, sometimes I door. And, some churches, when they lose people in some respects, this is maybe rare, but it's a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing. And so, yeah, I kind of agree with John. I don't think we can compartmentalize these areas. A lot of the times they're overlapping, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to sometimes when people think strategy, they think very, very man-centered. But I've seen a lot of churches where on the smaller side where maybe somebody becomes a Christian and then the church doesn't have a discipleship pathway to walk them through the stages, or they never grow. And so one of the things is a lot of times when people hit that momentum growth, it's just kind of random and there's no thought behind it. But when you're strategic about it, you're growing on purpose because of this. And so one of the things I enjoy, and I actually pushed back against some of the seminary guys, is we are totally called to preach, and that's first and foremost priority. But there's got to be some ministry strategy to help people go through that discipleship pathway and growing in those stages, which would therefore multiply and hopefully in the Great Commission and us reaching people, and not only reaching them, but walking them through the stages of growth. And then as that happens, then the church grows organically and numerically. And so that's kind of the stage we're in, having those systems of being able to do that and follow up with guests on their first time. And have an aligned discipleship pathway from bed babies to seniors, and something that they go hand in hand and they talk to each other and they build on one another. That's one of the things that I think seminary kind of undersells or sells short. That it's not necessarily, it's not the preaching part, but man, that's so important too. And a lot of times churches will hit their lid because pastors don't open them. They're either not gifted in that, or they don't learn in that area. They just focus on one thing. And so.
I was just going to say, if you don't want to use the word strategy or whatnot, or momentum or, growth, it's shepherding. You have to shepherd people. And if you're not in the business of making sure, and I use that word business loosely, all right, that you're caring enough for people that as they walk in, you remember that they all have a story. They're there for some reason. The Lord's brought them to that particular place at that moment. And yeah, some of it may be consumeristic, and you got to wade through some of those things. But if that's not the case, then there are families that are represented there with kids. There are families that want to learn how to shepherd their own family, right? And so if we're caring enough, both from the pulpit and in the pews, to make sure that we walk people in a direction that helps them see that we care enough about their spiritual growth, we care about enough about their equipping them for fruitful, good ministry, then that's important to sit down and to think carefully about, okay, well, how are we really handling and managing these people to lead them towards greener pastures, in order for them to grow in a way that's healthy and good, and they're part of the flock. They love membership at their church. They want to serve, all these great highlight things. Because yeah, if it's just for numbers' sake, then that never helps anybody. And now you're just turning into how you're herding cattle all around, and that's not our job. Our job is to shepherd faithfully the flock that God has given to us.
Yep, John. Any final thoughts to take us out?
I would just say a far greater number to care about and know is the number of members you have that God's going to give an account for before the throne, and He is not going to ask you how many you had in attendance in 2019 on the first February of the month, or the first Sunday of February. He's going to ask you. And so, one of the things that I find beautiful and helpful is I couldn't tell you how many we had last Sunday. Maybe that makes me a very bad pastor, but I know we have 349 people on membership roll because I pray through it every month. And part of the joy is not only seeing those saints on Sunday, but taking the time to really begin to see the fruitfulness in the long haul, 10 years from now, as you begin to pray, as you begin to care, as you begin to see those people that are attenders move into meaningful membership through faith and baptism, to finally arrive at disciple makers within their home and among their neighborhoods and even across the nation and globe. So know your members, pray for them daily, know that the Lord is going to call you to give an account for their faithfulness, and pray that if you take one more on, that you're ready to stand before the Lord for one more saint for who Christ died.
That's good. Shepherd well. All right, as we go out here, Adam, John, Paul, who you got in the next 10 years? Herbert or Trevor Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Lawrence, 100%.
Paul?
I'll go with Lawrence.
Oh, Lawrence. NFL season's here. We got an awesome guest roster coming up for you this fall. We'll see y'all next week.